Hi Greg, here is my presentation for you. So first of all, why higher order thinking was used for this lesson specifically. According to the Quality Teaching Guide in New South Wales Public Schools, higher order thinking requires students to manipulate information and ideas in ways that transform their meaning and implications. They also describe higher order thinking to see students combine facts and ideas which synthesize, generalize, explain, hypothesize, or arrive at some conclusion or interpretation. And this applies to the whole lesson through using discussion and worked examples. However, I will just focus on this particular activity to demonstrate how higher order thinking was used in this lesson. So during the food labels activities in the developmental stage of this lesson, students are asked to imply from their findings how healthy the product is, and then to compare the product to similar foods they find on supermarket websites. So the Quality Teaching Guide New South Wales also indicates that higher order thinking is utilised by students when they construct meaning from information and are able to make judgments based on standards that are given to them. This is So, how did the strategies of collaborative learning, questioning, and worked example support higher order thinking in this example? Using these strategies prompted student discussion and investigation and also supported the qualities of higher order thinking, such as giving solid meaning to topics and encouraging students to combine knowledge with others to come to a conclusion of the topic. The State of Victoria highlights that using worked example strategies in the classroom will support skill acquisition by presenting the steps required to complete the task, so cognitive overload is avoided, and students can then focus on their learning. Students then use these steps to complete the task with minimal support from the teacher. And this was used during the initial teacher explanation of how to read nutritional label with a diagram, which then led students to investigate the label with a partner, by the teacher giving instruction to the activity first and then encouraging students to investigate with limited support. Using a worked example for this activity supports higher order learning through transforming the knowledge to give the label meaning. Similarly, collaborative learning was also used to support higher order thinking and was advantageous for this lesson. And Pedagogies highlights in her text that collaborative learning is effective when teaching new content and skills where students are required to give meaning to new content. This may look like class discussions, think, pair, shares, or peer investigation activities. This lesson used these strategies in all activities support collaborative learning, which ultimately supported higher order thinking amongst students. This relates to middle years pedagogy, as according to Pendergast through the textbook, using higher order thinking skills with middle years students will see a range of success in students' ability to be intellectually challenged in the classroom. Ultimately, Pendergast and others explain that this intellectual challenge will engage students as they are perceiving the learning as inspiring and challenging. Higher order thinking in the classroom also requires teachers to believe that students want to think and that it will take time and energy to construct learning experiences where students think critically and creatively. Therefore, if the dominant teaching strategy sees the teacher continually inform students, higher order thinking is less likely to occur. Middle year students that are not engaging in higher order thinking are more likely to become bored or disinterested in the unit, revealing the importance of including it in middle years teaching practices. Additionally, higher order thinking is also strongly linked to adolescent brain development and middle years students' increased capacity to engage in complex thoughts. Middle year students need to be challenged to deepen their understanding of the content. Ultimately, it also can be concluded that ensuring middle year students are engaging in higher order thinking in the classroom comes down to these students using critical thinking for themselves outside of the classroom. Once these students reach adulthood, they will need to be able to transform information and give it meaning for themselves. Becoming a functioning member of society means that you are able to give new information meaning and to determine facts and meaning that will impact their lives. If middle year students are not taught this at school, they won't be able to practice it for themselves. So why have we chosen engagement for this lesson? Quality Teaching New South Wales Guide defines engagement as an element of quality learning environment and that it is identified by on-task behaviours that signal serious investment in classwork. They also describe that engagement shows behaviours of interest and attentiveness, individual focus on work and taking work seriously. Parallel to this, behaviours that demonstrate low engagement in class include off-task behaviours such as boredom, disrupting the class or talking to peers about non-class matters. Personally, ensuring that students are engaged from the first lesson is important for the progression of the unit, as getting students engaged from the start will make them more likely to engage with the content. Therefore, all activities that were conducted in the first lesson were built on elements of engagement. However, I will discuss the hidden sugars activity in the introduction of the lesson to demonstrate the importance of engagement. The activity builds on student interest by using products that are consumed in everyday life, such as Powerade or juice, with reference to current trends in foods in today's society, like Boost Juice or Yochi. By appealing to student interest, engagement is increased for students. Pendergast also highlights in her video that engagement is built on teachers intentionally including certain strategies and activities that are appropriate with middle years. Using strategies such as discussion, giving opinion, or group work are all indicated by Pendergast to promote engagement, which was the intention of the activities in this lesson. Engagement is also built on social and emotional belonging in the classroom, which is integral to establish in the first lesson. If students are able to feel supported, safe, and cared for in the beginning, they are more likely to engage in the class. Using engagement as a QTM element in the first lesson specifically was a deliberate choice, as without engagement, students will become bored and will demonstrate low engagement behaviours, which we are wanting to avoid. And how did the strategies support engagement? Collaborative learning, questioning were the main ones. The State of Victoria highlights that using questioning as a teacher strategy is effective in engaging students, as it stimulates their interest and curiosity of the topic, whilst also making links to students' lives outside of the classroom. By using questioning correctly in the classroom, this strategy will support engagement as it requires students to reflect on multiple perspectives whilst engaging in deep thinking and discussion during learning. When students are engaging with others to engage with the topic, this is a good thing. Both the State of Victoria and Pendergast highlight the importance of collaborative learning and engaging in the classroom. Collaborative learning requires students to actively participate in roles, responsibilities, and outcome of learning during group work, which gives students purpose. They also are required to interact with each other during group discussions, as Pendergast describes to be aligned with the ethos of middle years education. Additionally, when students are seen to actively engage in these group activities, their overall reasoning, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills enhance. Students who work collaboratively also increase their independence, autonomy, and achievement, which also promotes overall student engagement. Why is engagement so important for middle year students? Pendergast in her textbook has identified that the middle years of schooling are notoriously a period where student motivation and engagement declines, which is a result of many factors. This may include a disinterest in classroom tasks, work that is too easy, or feeling alienated in the classroom. Ensuring that engagement is a key element of lessons for middle year students is essential, as this group of students need activities for lessons that are engaging for them to participate in. If engagement is not accounted for, Pendergast explains that disruptive behaviour, declined attendance, and a decrease in academic achievement are all consequences of disengaging lessons. Engagement is also linked to classroom climate, where a positive and supportive classroom climate will promote engagement and vice versa. Similarly, Ali connects classroom environment to student engagement and motivation, where teachers are supporting students' autonomy and differentiating to meet each student's needs, which results in engagement. They also indicate that 40% of middle year students showing signs of disengagement, as the research shows that school environments are not aligned with the developmental needs of this age group. They also highlight that focusing on how student autonomy should be a focus for teachers, as teachers who are autonomy supportive embrace their students' perspectives, welcoming their thoughts, feelings, and suggestions during instruction. Ultimately, by constructing a positive classroom environment that is supportive of students' autonomy and meets student developmental needs, motivation and engagement will become a result. Engagement is integral for middle year students to progress and is needed to encourage students to continue learning in the classroom. And the last element from the QTM model that we included in our lesson was background knowledge. So the Quality Teaching Guide highlights that background knowledge is evident when lessons provide students with opportunities to make connections between their knowledge and experiences and the content of the lesson. This may include prior school knowledge or out of school knowledge, like personal experience, local knowledge, or cultural knowledge. Using background knowledge element for this lesson is to value and link concepts of nutrition with students' prior knowledge and personal experience with the topic. This gives the topic relevancy to students, which results in greater engagement from the students. Background knowledge is used predominantly in the introduction first activity, which was group mind map. This activity draws directly on students' background knowledge of healthy eating with prompts such as what does healthy eating mean to you and what things come to mind when you think of healthy eating. In doing so, students are using their background knowledge to engage with the topic in the first activity of the lesson, with hopes that this engagement will carry on for the remainder of the lesson. How do the strategies, collaborative learning, questioning, and worked examples fit in and support background knowledge? Collaborative learning through discussions, group work, and think pair shares draws on students using their background knowledge to complete the task, but also gaining other students' background knowledge. This is done by making reference to family, community, previous experience, and pop culture through a variety of activities. This way, students are able to gain insight from other students' experiences, which ultimately enrich their learning. The collaborative learning nature of the group mind map supports background knowledge well, as students are sharing personal experience to participate in the task. There are many international students in the class too, and this allowed for a diverse and enriched discussion due to the cultural difference in background knowledge. Questioning also draws on background knowledge from prompting students to reflect on their knowledge to the answer. For the mind map activities, questions such as what does healthy eating mean to you and what things come to mind when you think of healthy eating will all prompt a different response from each student due to the difference in background knowledge. Students are able to expand their knowledge and gain different perspectives on topics through questioning and listening to other students' answers. In Mill and Brackley's text, they highlight how both Brunner and Vygotsky propose that a way a child constructs meaning is through their interactions, whether that be with other people in different contexts or different experiences. They also discuss how learners actively construct knowledge and understanding by their interactions between new knowledge and prior knowledge. They recognise that a teacher's primary responsibility is to ensure connections are made between what is already known and what is new content, and that of what a student knows may impact how the student responds to new information. Pendergast and others also emphasise the importance of recognising middle year students' prior knowledge and experiences when teaching. Using a student's previously developed skills and interests can be advantageous for teachers, as this draws on students' strengths in learning.